I understand your concern, Bling. There could be as many as 300,000 of us right now infected with the parasite within this little monster, and chances are we wouldn't even know it. Assassin bug, long nose, kissing bug, wheel bug. There are many different names. Out of all the species of assassin bugs, only about 11 or 12 are capable of passing on the horrible parasite, Tryposamana cruzi. We're just going to call it Cruzi from now on. Now, Cruzi is truly a remarkable and terrifying little critter. They're, of course, microscopic. They're a little flagellate. It's an alonginoid is the name. But they have a long, thin proboscis, rather like this insect's, that they use to bore into your tissue, into your blood and your lymph, and feed on you. How do they get there, though? It's rather horrifying. They get there primarily through this guy. This guy is rather like the king or the queen of bedbugs. They're a true bug, and they get fairly large, especially when they fill up with blood. You can find them in any place, really. You can find warm blood, invertebrates, even lizards and things they've been known to feed on. But they prefer things like rats and coyotes and dogs and us. They are very, very selective in how they feed. They find you based upon your carbon emissions and the heat that you give off and your blood supply. When they find you, they like to feed at night because that's when most of us are sleeping and resting, and they always go to where we live. You'll find them in the nests, as I've said, of these animals. Once those animals fall asleep and night falls, these little insects crawl out. They don't fly. They crawl around. They crawl onto your body. Many times they'll bite near the face and the head, but anywhere they can find blood. Now, to do that, they creep very slowly onto you, making sure they don't wake you. And when they find a rich area of blood, they bore down with that long nose, the proboscis, right into your flesh using a saw. And there's a clear fluid that comes out, rather like a lymph. But inside that fluid, it anesthetizes you. And it also has an enzyme to break up the blood, to make it flow. And they drink you up. Due to something called plasticity, their bodies can engorge many times their original size. I'll try to include a photo of it. And all of that is horrifying enough. And for some people, you can even die from the bite if you're severely allergic. But the fact is, that's not the danger. The bite itself might have a little bit of a rash or something the next day. But they can pass on the parasite, Cruzi, within them, within their feces. You see, while they're eating you, they have to make room, so they're pooping and peeing. It's gross. It leaves blood-like stains all over everything, like bedbug stains, you know? Because you are what you eat, after all. But what happens is, whether they bite you on the hand or they bite you somewhere on your face, we, through something called our reticulated activation system, sometimes our brain, it does things when we don't even know they're doing it. You know, we're sleeping. Just like breathing, we don't realize we're breathing, but we are. There's a system that regulates that in the human brain. It's called something different than the RAS now. But that system feels that little bug down there, and it scratches wherever that bug is, and it wipes your face and everything. You go right back to sleep. Of course, you never really wake up, but inside of that action is that parasite. You've introduced it to your mucous membranes now. It's in your eyes, it's in your bloodstream, it's in your body. Now, the great thing is, if you have symptoms, you better hope you do. You might have a telltale rash. I highly recommend looking it up. If you are lucky enough, you might have some swelling around your eyes. Those symptoms early on are going to mimic any other symptoms of things like cold or flu, just common things. So you might not consider it. But if you can get treated at that point, they can kill off the parasite. Chances are they can get all of it. But if you don't catch it during the early going, you can get the chronic stages of this disease, and that's when it really is horrifying. Some of those symptoms, when you finally hit that patch, are really, really bad. Issues with your gut, your esophagus swells up to where you can't swallow. Your gut and your colon swell up to where you can't go poop. You're so constipated, or you have horrible pain in your gut. But then you could die from a sudden cardiac arrest scenario. You could have a heart attack or a massive stroke because those bugs get all through your system, but they end up in places like your heart, in your brain, in your bloodstream, and they overwhelm you there. They destroy your heart. Your heart tries to fight back, but after so long, like heartworm in a dog, your heart can only take so much. Bang! and you're gone. The good news is, if you're up north, you probably don't have to worry about it, unless you're from one of the Latin American countries. In fact, many of the people that have been tested, the 300 or so thousand, remember, that might have it in the USA, many of them from places like Bolivia, Guatemala, Mexico, Brazil. They're from somewhere in Central and South America, where there are many more of these bugs and the species that prey upon us there. They like a dirty house. They really do. That's one thing you can do to protect yourself from them. Put screens on your homes. They're a rather large insect. They won't make their way in through that. But keep a close eye. Make sure there are none in your home. Many times people see them and think they're just harmless little bugs, and they're not. That's a variety that stores the corpses of its victims on its back, if that tells you anything. Now, I know none of you are going to watch it all the way to the end, because it's too long for you, if you're like me and have a TikTok brain. But the fact is, there's an engorged one above me. It's about the size of a grape. That patch behind it, that's its poop. And within the poop, if you can see it, there's a small circle up there. It's rather clear. Inside that circle, it's an actual image of Cruzy, those monsters inside. So, I highly recommend you go down to your doctor. Next time you have a blood panel, don't run or anything. But if you're feeling off, if you feel like something's not quite right, maybe you ought to have that test. And do yourself a favor and your family. If you know anybody in areas that are prone to this type of insect, share this video out to them. It might just save their life.